Hello and good evening.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, everyone. Julia and Nancy B are here. Don't worry, I'm going to be going away here in a few minutes and let Nancy B take over. And I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time talking because apparently Nancy has a lot to talk about. Right, Nancy?
I do. I got more stuff to say than time to do it.
Okay. Welcome, everyone. Hello and welcome. Hello. So just going to give you a couple of things, just a reminders before I hand it over to Nancy. So Nancy is talking all about Elizabeth Craft Designs today, and our demo deal is 25% off Elizabeth Craft Designs. It does exclude nude releases. And Glenn and I found out about, and I haven't told Nancy this, about 40 minutes ago, a customer let us know that the Monday Night Live deal was not working online. So there's that. But it's working now. So online, you can save 25% off Elizabeth Craft Designs, and I'll be dropping a link here in just a moment. That is online from now until 11:59 p.m. tomorrow night, which is May 6th. And it is also 25% off Elizabeth Craft Designs tomorrow in store. Now we've got another deal that's running right now, and that is a last chance extra 20% off. That is the 40 and 70% off. So you're going to get an extra 20% off those. That is in store again until 11:59 p.m. tomorrow night, online until 11:59 p.m. tomorrow night, May 6th, and in store tomorrow, which is Tuesday. Okay, Nancy B, I know you got a lot to talk about, so I'm going to take myself away and I'm just going to make it all about you. And when I see comments, I'll put them up on the screen for you, okay?
Sweet. Thank you.
There we go. And you're up, Nancy B.
Awesome. Glad to be here tonight to share Elizabeth Craft Designs. I think Elizabeth Craft Designs is probably one of my top faves. And I think at the store, I think people think I'm maybe a bit nuts, but I actually think that until you've taken a look at it, you don't get how completely versatile this line can be. So I thought what I would do is just kind of do a quick tour of things I've done with it, things you can get, and just kind of talk about it in general. And then from there, we'll see how it goes. I've got a few ideas to fill the time. As I said, she's got so many different things going on. We got more time, more things to talk about in Elizabeth Crafts than time. But
Nancy.
So
Nancy.
Yes.
I remembered I saw your piece of paper there and I forgot about our giveaway. Do you mind if I just pop in and tell them about the giveaway?
No.
Okay, so we are going to be doing a giveaway tonight. Before Nancy finishes up, I've got the giveaway tool currently running in the background, collecting your names from your comments. We are giving away one pack of the soft finish cardstock from Elizabeth Craft Designs, valued at $18. One of you is going to get a pack of 25 sheets. And Nancy, if you just want to touch on it and just talk about the soft finish cardstock.
It's soft. Okay, so 8.5 by 11 cardstock, beautiful finish. It's got a slight texture to it, which I think is exquisite. And then the other side is super smooth. Okay, so fabulous for stamping. If you're going to do any embossing, definitely use the smooth side. If you're going to do some mixed media, you can always use this textured side. And look at that crease. Like, I just, right before coming on, I wanted to see how well it would hold up to folding to make pages for my planners and journals, and it is amazing. It's no cracking. It just creased beautifully in my Score Pal and folded lovely, and it's going to hold up too. It's not weak at all. So love this paper. Love it. Highly recommend. Okay, so other than paper, she also does have, let's see if I have one within reach, since we're speaking about paper. She has 12 by 12 collections that she comes out with, and they're usually not particularly overdone. Like they're not around, they might be around a color or a texture, but maybe not a theme as such. So the latest one we have is one called Abstract Backgrounds. And it, of course, I've been into mine, so I can't show you. Well, maybe I can. Let's see if I kept the front. There it is. This one, Backgrounds Volume 1. So she has a number of different designers for her. This one is David. He loves his mixed media art journaling. That sort of tends to be his niche within Elizabeth Crafts. So you get this gorgeous pattern cardstock paper, 12 double-sided sheets, plus an inside cover. So there you go. The back of the cover is useful. And then you get these gorgeous textured cardstocks. So double-sided. One side's usually a little bit more involved than the other. So we got little couple more layers on one side. Anyway, lots of cool colors within a theme, right? And she's got, so she comes out with those a couple times a year. The other paper that I really love from her, we don't actually have any in stock, but I wait for them every single time and try to grab them, are these reminiscence books. So I'm hoping it's not that she's getting out of them. I doubt it. I think these are going to come back and continue coming back. But usually there's a book of pattern cardstock. Now for me, this is like perfect. When I want to sit down with Elizabeth Crafts and start art journaling, I will grab this book and just start cutting into it. And that's why I keep it in a Ziploc bag. Okay, so this is book 6, the latest one that came out. So there is 32 double-sided sheets in 120 gram and 32 double-sided sheets in 250 gram. What does that mean? That means that there is half the book in the patterns, double-sided patterns, in this lovely paperweight. So great layering collage paper. And then towards the back of the book, so about halfway through, it switches and it's the exact same run of patterns again, but this time it's done on a cardstock weight. Okay, so depending on where you're using it in your journal is how you may want to choose which weight to use, or maybe you want to use this for the back for card bases. But there's even like cutouts that you can, like this would be great as a background, but then if you wanted to, you can cut these little tabs out and you've got 52 weeks in a year in your planner. So she thinks of things like this and has lots of fun stuff. So once I start cutting into it, I get pieces flying and pages falling out. So I keep the whole book in a 9 by 12 Ziploc and put it on my shelf, and then I'm ready to go whenever I want to use that. So when it comes to Elizabeth Crafts, she has stencils for, art journaling. She has die combos. I'll talk a little bit more about dies. She does the flower and fruit layering where you cut out all sorts of different pieces and make up these gorgeous, so this one's called Fresh Fruit. I particularly was excited about it because I went to Italy and I want to kind of do the whole citrus thing. She does she kind of calls it her cute line, where she has cute sort of animals and butterflies and such like that. So here's one of the butterflies. She's also done, like, I don't buy a lot of these. This isn't as much my style, but I had to get a couple. I mean, the caterpillar is adorable. The sloth is my spirit animal. She always has some foliage that comes out with the flowers. I'm trying to show you one. Ah, here we go. And I had to get the moose. If you've ever watched any of my other demos, I've talked about my son who plays hockey and they call him the moose. So I'm going to actually cut this guy out and use him on my scrapbook pages because my son even has glasses. So I was just totally loved that. So she's got like stamps, journal phrases. This one looks like a heck of a lot of kind of nothing, but these tiny little words can be so much fun to add as captions to photos in your memory planning or even your full page scrapbooks. I can add like a bunch of them to sort of decorate up tags and backgrounds. But if this is still in store, and I have a feeling it is, it's worthwhile because it's got fun fact, you matter on this day, lots of cool words that you can, there's the date, big smile, so that you can kind of, grab. What I've actually done is I stamped the entire thing. I taped, here, I'll even show you how I do it. So I took my Misty. I got so much stuff going on, I can't find my Misty anymore. Okay, so I got my Misty. Getting a little distracted already, but that's okay. I'll come back to the dies. So this one called CS383 Minis. What I did was I grabbed my Misty and I just pulled the back of the sheet off. And then I put it down, and instead of taking them off, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my best ever craft tape and tape the entire thing down to the top. If my fingers cooperate, of course. There we go. Here we go. So now it's good to go. I'm going to grab might as well show this great paper. I've got my soft finish cardstock. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go with the waterproofing tonight. So I'm going to use my VersaFine Clair. I'm not looking for to do any blending or layering. So that's when I usually like to grab a waterproof or an archival. And I'm just going to stamp them all at once. Oops. Now, if I was smart, I would have checked out that I had that lined up properly. Oh, well. But now I've got all these little words, and what I can do is I can use my ruler and I can just start tearing them off. First off, we'll start this way. Hopefully I'm not coming off camera. Tears amazing. So there we go. I can continue. I'm not going to do the whole sheet on camera, but now I've got all these cute little bits that I can add to my collage clusters. Sometimes I'll even put something like that, maybe something like that, on top of a photo already in my album in the bottom corner. So what number is that? That one is, if we're talking about the minis, it's CS383, the minis. So I think that's highly worthwhile. So she does a lot of like journaling captions and memory keeping planners. And then they'll kind of get into mixed media planners where maybe it's more for personal expression instead of memory keeping. But there's definitely a huge array of products for you to play with. So I did want to show too these planners. So this is a planner that I have been working on. Now if you know me, you know I have plenty of unfinished projects and I'm highly distractible. So, oops. But anyway, I started this as, and now I think it's going to be next year's project, but I started it and it's ready to rock. And I could play with this any time of the year. There's nothing saying that I have to start in January, but I used a really cool die that has all the months of the year in it, and I created like a cover page. And then the idea is I put in just some blank pages, a couple, like I didn't put a lot. So then there's February, and then I just added a couple of craft pages, and I purposely set it up using the craft paper as a base. And now what I can do is I can come back, not unfinished, in process, exactly, in progress. So what my thinking is I've left room in this book to capture once a week something. So I can kind of do highlights of my year all the way through this journal. So I've got, there's February, there's March, and as you can see, I've used the Simply Stated paper to kind of jazz up. And it didn't bother me at all that it's one-sided because this is very decoratable. It's just a white base page. So I'll just go ahead and add some jazz to these things and they'll be great. Again, so then as I went along, like May, I didn't really have a color or theme, so I went with this coffee paper. I kind of stayed a little bit towards the seasons, like June was lovely florals, and then just skipping ahead, you know, October, I used a Halloween collection. The only month that I don't have in here is December, because I do tend to do a December daily on its own, and I felt that it kind of deserved its own planner. But now I've set myself up for an entire year of just capturing those photos that are on my camera. Just week by week. And, you know, chances are I am going to get behind, but at least if I have it in my head that I won't have this journal, I'll at least take the pictures and I'm certainly going to remember, you know, that was when I did this or that or the other thing. And if worse comes to worse, I can always keep a post-it note or just even in a, you know, in my day timer, little notes about you know, week to week so that I can come back to it. Okay, but I love the idea of dailies. I love the idea of memory keeping over time. I just I find sometimes the daily commitment can be big. So what I really loved about this one was you know, a weekly commitment. I could do that. I could do that. Okay, so the one thing I wanted to show too was how very alterable these planners are. So this is a planner class that I taught quite a while back. It's the same size planner, except she's embossed this one. But let's just say, now I love this color. I'm not embossing this, but let's just say if I wanted to change the color, there's nothing saying I couldn't add some paint or some Prima waxes. There's lots that I can do to alter them. And this is one, and I don't even remember what color it was because I think it was this natural color. It didn't end up the same color at all. So I actually layered on die cuts and paints and had some mixed media fun, and this is held up incredibly well. Like, these are paper die cuts that I used collage medium on and adhered to the book. So I mean, they are very, very alterable. Now sometimes I find I get to the end of a planner and then I'm like, well, I really love the planner and the contents, well, I move them on to somewhere else and then I just keep using the planner. So that's sort of what's going on with this one. But then we have these sweet little books, and I know they come in these little baggies, these burlap bags, which are so fun. And I know right off the bat, when you get them out of the package, they can be a little understated. I'm not going to say boring because they're exciting to me because I know what I'm going to do. But if you don't know what you're going to do with them, it's like, what? So these are just sweet little booklet starters. Okay, so this one's called the Passport XL size. Okay, so when you open it up, there is no paper. I've put the paper in there, and we'll talk about that. But it's like a traveler's notebook. It's got these elastics, so you can tuck pages into the notebook as you want. So depending on what you want this to be, absolutely a blank canvas. So if I want this just to be an expressive art journal in a small style that's travel friendly, I've got this cute little book. Or you know, maybe I just am really enjoying playing with some certain stamps and dies, so I just keep going and I end up filling the book up with it. But again, these are very alterable. And then, of course, they have this sweet bag that you can keep them in and even keep some of your parts in. So this is one I started actually right before I came on today. It's called, this one's the Square XL size. And this is, hang on. I have the wrong bag. That in the wrong baggie. This is definitely not square. This is the Square XL. This one's called Passport. So yeah, that makes sense. It's about the size of a passport. It's kind of got that rectangular feel to it. Okay, so I actually started altering it right away. So I've created some pages, which I'll put in right away to show you. But the one thing I wanted to show you that I did do, like I said, I already started altering it. So I've done some stamping on there with archival ink. It was just gray. And then I used some background stamping of the, you know, we all have these backgrounds, writing stamps. You just go ahead and do that. But if you look closely, you can see that I've actually even run that through my embossing, as embossed it with an embossing folder. Okay, so the problem with embossing is if I get this wet with a lot of paint, once I've embossed it, it can kind of work that embossing out. So you got to kind of plan for it. So I use the Spellbinders Argyle Plaid, and it can be a little tricky. So if you have a nice big machine like the Switch, or like a bigger platform machine, you're laughing. You can get this whole thing through no prob and come out with great results. But then I got thinking, well, I only have the Platinum 6 and I want to emboss. So how am I going to do this? So I'm just trying to find my folder. Here we go. So what I did, so obvious, if you look at your Platinum 6, this is only going to go in this way. I can't go this way. So what the beauty of a Switch would be is I could load my book in and probably put that whole thing all the way through, right? But with this, it's a little bit more of a struggle. And then the other thing is when I look at my base, it doesn't, there's no sandwich recommendations on this. I'm playing and thinking outside the box. So I have to actually experiment a little bit. So what I did was I grabbed my platform and I grabbed my platform top. And then what I did, and I'll do it on this one to show. So let me just pull some pages out here. So I don't want these pages in my book right now. I don't want them to interfere with my emboss. So I'll just take them out for the time being. Okay. So instead of worrying about doing the entire thing all at once, what I did was I would have been really nice if I could have loaded up the front like that, but that's not going to get through my machine. So I knew that it was going to be imperfect and I wasn't going to manage to cover the whole cover, but at the same time, I still really wanted to do it. So I only loaded up half the book, and then it came down to how is this best going to fit through my machine. So that's where I started experimenting. So this is a 3D folder, and I've got my platform top on a platform base, and then I can just, okay, I can't feel any pressure or enough pressure there. Sorry, I got things flipping around on me here. Just half a sec. Okay. So yeah, it can be a bit finicky. I'm trying to get those ties out of the way. I'm trying to make sure all the layers are good. So I wanted to see, so it did not work as a normal sandwich. I can tell you that right now. So I tried this and it was okay. So I'm just going to turn this, see if I could get better success this way. Now it's very loose. I can feel that that's quite loose. So this is where I might just add, I could even use some of these little booklets. I did try, I'm going to try it again, just see what just a cutting plate C, just to see. Now it's super tight, so I'm not going to get away with that. So I'm going to need just to shim it up. So depending on how creasy I want it is how much of a shim. So, you know, back in the day before they gave us these universal plates, we just had to add cardstock to kind of shim up. So I'm going to go ahead and just do that, and it worked. So that was a couple extra pieces of cardstock. I can feel that there's just enough tension. I don't want to be cranking it so hard that I'm fighting it, but I want to be able to, it needs to have some pressure. And there, see, I got this beautiful emboss now on my, I've started to customize my journal now. All ready to rock. So this is the Spellbinders 3D. You can use any embossing folder. The Tim Holtz ones are great. But anyway, so for this one, you know, I could leave that, or I'll just do the front. Like I could just put it through twice. So in this case, maybe I just go in this way, and I'll just run her through again. So one thing I'm noticing is if this spine with this is kind of interfering, it doesn't want to, it'll go through, but it doesn't want to start the feed. So I just get it out of the way. I start with the edge that's easier. And now I'm just going to go ahead and knock a bunch of things over on my desk. And then all right, so there we go. That was my problem. I had it doubled up. Now it didn't want to go. Now it will. Perfect. And done. So if I want to pick up that texture or change color, I did mention that adding too much moisture to this can cause the embossing to kind of go away. You're moistening this fabric, and it's going to loosen all that embossing. So I'm going to stay away from paint at this point. But what I can do is I can grab, let's see, I don't know. And I'm going to stick with an archival ink because, again, if I'm using distress inks and I come back to it later, it's going to move. So I'm going to want it to stay. I want it to be permanent when dry. So I can always just take So you can use your Primo waxes too if you have a stash of those, but I'm just going to try this archival ink and just blend just a little bit of color across, just to kind of pick up a little bit of that design. I started at the edges. I knew I had a lot of ink on my blending tool. So I wanted to, I started at the edges where I wanted more ink, and then I blended out knowing that I was going to start to run out of ink towards the center, and I was happy with that. I wanted to show more brown in the center. So I started at the edge and just kind of worked it out. And there you go. And I can layer that as much or as little as I want. So Kelly, what about a StazOn ink? Yes, StazOn ink would work. I tend to reserve StazOn ink 100% for stamping on non-porous surfaces like acetate. The reason is I don't love the smell of it, and I find once this dries, it's going to stay there, and I have a lot of colors. So yes, StazOn would work. It's just a preference thing for me. Do I think a brayer would work? Let's try it. Let's try it as soon as I find one. Okay, so I got a bit of gesso here. I grabbed a piece of packaging here just to cover my desk so that I could put down a bit of the gesso. So this gesso acrylic paint, in this case, it's interchangeable. I'm just grabbing gesso because it's what I have here, not because, or maybe I don't. Let's see what's in here. Mine's very thick. That might be helpful too. Anyway, point is, let's see what happens. Let's just see. What's the difference between archival ink and VersaFine Clear? Okay, I'm going to circle back to that, Dawn. Give me half a sec. So I think, the thinking, as I'm thinking, is this should work in theory because I'm applying it a little bit lighter with a brayer, lighter touch, but let's find out. So I'm just going to kind of, so the texture is staying as of now. What I'm going to do, I have a feeling it will be okay. But I'm going to set this aside and see if where there's more paint, if it gets rid of that texture. But so far, so good. So far, so good. And the other thing that I'm actually liking this, is it's picking up in my gesso a little of the red because archival ink wasn't completely dry. So it's kind of leaching into my gesso, and I'm loving that. Okay. Let's just put this aside and see where it goes. I think we're okay. I think that might stay. So the difference between VersaFine Clear and archival ink. So VersaFine Clear is the Sukaneko brand that is a pigment ink. It is completely embossable. So a pigment ink, it takes longer to dry. It's not immediate to drying. And then when let's see what this one says. Yeah, it's permanent when it's dry, and it's really, the Claire line is very good for fine details, and it has to do with the fabric that they're using on the pad. Okay, archival ink is also permanent and waterproof. Okay, but it's just a different brand, right? And I think it dries, if I was comparing, I would say this dries a little bit faster. But where you're getting, when you get into inks, and I'm not here for ink tonight, so I'm not going to get too much into this, is how they perform with what you're using. Okay, so an archival ink versus a VersaFine Clair, and then I introduce watercolor. I'm not sure, I can't tell you for sure, but one might need to be heat set, or one might bleed, or so I mean, there's a few little things, and maybe a dynamic duo should come along and talk about that sometime soon. Okay, so I went ahead and I've started decorating some of these journals. Oh, hang on. Now I've got this gesso here. Oh yeah, love that. Holy crow. Look at that, the way that picked up that texture. So fun. So now that I got it out, I've got to... I have to say, I didn't expect to be playing with gesso and a brayer tonight. Thank you, that's fun. Okay, so I'm going to give this a quick dry because I have kind of a second layer that I want to go. Where am I at for time? We're already at 7:06. That's okay. All right, ink tutorial coming down the pipeline, Kim, I promise. Okay, so I'm just giving this a quick dry so that so I can work on the next layer. All right. So don't worry too much about any warping. These leather booklets, they smash back into their place really nicely. So before I came on, I used a stamp and die set called Just Right. And it called to me because I am an insane person when it comes to fountain pens and inks and papers and stationery. So I fell for this big time. So it has these ornate kind of corner pieces, these fountain pens and bits and pieces, but it's also a die set. So it's a combo set. So before I came on, I thought that it might be kind of fun to use some of these corner pieces to add to my journal. But what I don't know for sure, okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to secure these to the journal and then maybe even add a pen. I don't know, I cut a handful of things. Could even do something like that if I wanted to. Just going to stop and do a quick wipe up. Okay, so how I do this is I'm gonna go ahead and use collage medium. If you have matte medium, collage medium, gloss medium, all of these things would work. It would be helpful if I could find one. Okay, I'm going to use the Vicki Boutin matte acrylic gel. So just to show you, a lot of these gels and pastes they have their own properties, but sometimes they can be interchangeable as well. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to paint it down. So I'm not going to spread it right all over for the reasons we already talked about. I really don't want to lose the texture of the emboss. but I'm just going to apply these corners down just to add a little something. I can also just use art glitter glue. So I'm going to go ahead and do that on the pens. And then what I would do, I think I want this one like that. And then this one. So of course glue's a smidge faster, but then if I want to kind of make sure to seal it down, then I can do an overcoat of the gel. So I'm going to do it on this piece. Collage medium. Is it a fancy term for Mod Podge? Well, I have a little line that I use. And I know that not everybody agrees with me, but I say friends don't let friends use Mod Podge. Now, Mod Podge is a good product. There's really nothing wrong with it. But I find when I'm using it in my art journals, I use it exactly how I'm using it here. So I put a layer down, and then I would collage something down, and then I'd seal another layer on top with my gel medium. And exactly how I would use Mod Podge. But the problem with Mod Podge, and I think it's an Alberta thing, I don't think that it's a product quality thing, is it dries sticky and my pages stick together. So I tend towards using a good like Ranger collage medium or the Vicky Putin matte acrylic gel. There's a few different brands, but yeah, so essentially the answer is yes, it is pretty much Mod Podge. I just jokingly say friends don't let friends use Mod Podge. Okay. So now I've got this and I just want it to dry, but inside my planner, I've got, or whatever we want to call this little mini basic book, I've got these elastic bands that I'm going to want to create little signatures. So little booklets that I can kind of tuck into my book. So I'm going to give this a minute to dry, and I'm just going to show you a couple of ways that you can create pages to go inside. So the cool thing about these is to not be intimidated. So there's lots of different ways you can do it. So if you actually look at some of the die sets, so I'm just trying to find a good example here. Okay, here's a couple of good examples. So these die sets, they came out with the purpose of using with these books, but I don't want people to feel that they have to use them with these books, because I actually bought these for all sorts of different reasons. So this one's called Playful Grunge. It fits the Passport XL. So that's the one that I was just working on. As I said, things are going crazy around here already, and I didn't know I put it aside to dry. I'm not sure where it went. That was like 30 seconds ago. Okay, hang on, I found it. So if I cut this huge piece right here out on this die, it will fold in half and go nicely into my Passport XL journal. And then I've got all these other pieces that are so awesome to use. Okay. This one, the Doily Galore, also fits the Passport XL art journal, but it's got a different edge. So the Playful Grunge is a little bit more ripped, torn, vintage looking, Whereas the Doily Galore, it's just a page, okay? But I want to be sure that you understand you do not need these big pieces to play with this journal, okay? As long as you can cut a straight square on your, and then fold it in half. And I tell you, the Elizabeth Crafts Designs soft finish cardstock folds beautifully for these books. You can make yourself lots of beautiful pages for your book. So I'll go ahead and make some pages for this book. And look, it's holding up really well on that emboss. So yay, Brayer, yay. So what I would do is, and I kind of worked this out on the weekend, is I figured out the dimensions before I started, and then I wrote it down on a post-it note, and then all I have to do is cut a bunch, as many as I want for my book. So it's 5 7/8 by 10, and then folded in half to create the little book. I chose craft cardstock, and I cut a handful ahead for myself, knowing that I can add more later. But I also didn't necessarily want to overload my book because I love pockets, flips, and folds. So I was just getting started. And sometimes I find, like when you sit down and you got all these dies and all these stamps, and you're like, where do I start? Where do I start? Well, you know what? Just start making the pages, and then you can decorate the pages. So that was where I started. So 5 7/8 by 10. So what I'll do is I'll grab myself a piece of our cardstock, and I'll get one ready. So I know 5 7/8 by 10, so I'm just going to cut 10. Now, if you have the Score Pal tool where you can use your bone folder, or maybe you have a scoring blade, this is where you can load it up and score your halfway. But I don't want you to get caught up in that. We can do this any old way we feel. So I'm just gonna fold it. Just fold it like I mean it. I can use my nail. I don't even need a bone folder. And apparently my measurements are off. Haha, let me double check that. That's funny. I think I overcut it. But let me double check my measurements so that we make sure that you have the right ones. $10. Yeah. Trim it down, trim it down. So I'm just going to go with 5 by 10. So don't do the 7/8. Just do 5 by 10. Simple and easy to remember too. So I'll correct this. So that I do this so that I have a record, so that when I come back to it later, I can think about it. Anyway, so now I've got a cute little book, a little page that I can now tuck into here and start decorating. So what I will do is maybe, like I could make a mix. I could do black, white, and craft. I'll do a couple per elastic. And then it's just ready for the next step. So I've made myself a really cute mixed media journal. Super duper simple. And it's ready to start playing. Gloria, I think what you're talking about, so that's what I think they did come up with this idea of the elastics, because one thing with the planner, so they have these binder rings, planners, right? If I want to use the binder ring planner, I need one of their dies. So let's see which one I used. So she comes out with multiple different permutations and planner pages over and over and over. But as long as you have one planner folio page, you can make it work. So what I do, I'm trying to see which one I used. Okay, so the one I used for this one, so I have this one called 1-inch frame. So in my die set, it has a page die. So it's got this die and it cuts this window page, right? However, if I only have this die, I might want some full blank pages, right? All I need is one. I don't need to buy a whole set of these. You might still want more. I know I'm not going to talk you out of it, but as long as you have one that has the placement of these holes, you're good to go. Because what I will do is I'll go ahead and I will put this through and cut a page. So again, I'm just going to grab there's some ECD cardstock. I'm going to cut it, and this will cut it with the holes, with this window, but just wait, because I got a trick. Okay. Oops. Oops, crud. What I'm looking for, and the most important piece of this, is the hole spacing. So even I accidentally ripped in there, I'm not worried. I'm just going to go ahead and run this through. I'm creating myself a little template. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put this through. Now, if I were to go and buy a different planner company's planner die, there's no guarantee that it'll fit the Elizabeth Crafts, because they all seem to like to have their own different spacings. So that's something you're going to want to investigate before you buy. But now I've got this sort of template page, and I could have cut it out of any scraps I wanted. But now I've got this great page that I can use, but I can also use it as a template. So what I'll do is I'll measure this page to find out exactly how big it is, and then I can cut. Okay, let's see. So I'm going to grab. Let's say I wanted a piece of abstract originals, or abstract for a background. So now I want to do is I'm going to measure this. So it's 4 7/8 by 8 1/4. So I'll cut out a page. If I don't want to measure, I can even just hold this up to my paper like this and just kind of make a mark and a mark. And trust me, I do that sort of thing a lot more than I use measurements because I'm not mathy. I'll grab my cutter And then cut. And what I'll do is I'll actually cut more than one, and I'll have a whole bunch of the pages that I want to add. And then I'll come back and I'll put my template back on. And I'll even I kind of color in just to give myself a reference. And then I'll come back and I'll hole punch those holes. So the hole punch that I really appreciate, I do like my Crop-A-Dile. The We Are Memory Keepers is good too. The We Are Memory Keepers multi-hole one has a slightly bigger hole, so that if I accidentally, user error, don't quite get things lined up, I got a little bit of grace. But I'll just go ahead and use this. And anyway, just punch those holes, and those will go in my page. So the problem the point is now I've just used whatever die is available to me to create myself a template. I can even put this aside or make it out of chipboard and have it for multiple pages. So maybe I never throw this away, and this is now my planner page template, right? What time are we at? We're at 7:30 already. Ha ha ha. Might have to do this again. So yeah, that's exactly what I did here. I just created a bunch of pages, and I'll just keep one or two of these. And next time I cut some extra. Next time I need to planner rings, flashbacks, absolutely. So yeah, next time I have to go ahead and cut. I don't know, brain is braining. So anyway, that's pretty much it in a nutshell. I mean, like I said, I could go forever. We've got.
How you doing, Nancy?
What?
How you doing?
I'm really good. Can I show one more thing? Really quick?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, shutting up now.
That's fine. I wanted to feature this. We have a couple of these left, and I think the sad news is when you punch this into your online store, you discover that it is $115. And gasp, because holy crap, that is expensive for some dies. But I really wanted to show these planner essentials. So periodically, Elizabeth Crafts comes out with these special kits. And basically what it is are these jumbo size planner kits. And then they have a coordinating stamp that goes with them. So this one had all these cool little pockets and flips and folds and tags, highly versatile stuff that I can cut and make my own ephemera for my scrapbooks too, not just memory keeping planners. Then there's these fold outs, which are already scored. So when I get these sorts of things, but one more thing, I'm so excited. It comes with a coordinating stamp set. So this one came with one called, I've made a mess again. Here we go. Called Weather Report. So if you're into the idea of journaling, planner journaling, where you're kind of, keeping track of things day to day or month to month, maybe you want to track temperatures or, but even then, these are really fun backgrounds for making your own ephemera and collage. But anyway, so what I'll do, and what I did, was I sat down with these big die sets and I created all sorts of pieces from all sorts of the different dies and stamps. And then I just sort of make these collage clusters, or pre-stamp some tickets on some stencil backgrounds. And again, I mean, I'm making my own ephemera. But from that set, this set right here, I've got this great pocket that I can add to a page. I've got a nice little journaling block, a little tab, all just cut from Simply Stated design papers that I can add anywhere in my journals. And then if, like I said, a lot of them have these scores on them, so that I can actually create an interactive flap onto my pages. So what I like to do, and I find it happens a lot, is I don't always know how these stamp sets and dies are going to interact and play until I start to actually put them through my die cutting machine. So I'll sit down and I'll put them through craft or white and just start with a neutral. In this case, like this little flap, I found out that it has a score line right here. So I can create this little flap, and then these little holes, I can lace them together. And I'm not sure that I would have totally realized that until I started actually cutting with the actual dies. So anyway, I just wanted to point out these beautiful, these special kits, because you can get a lot out of these that goes a long, 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 long way. Now I'm done.
Well, thank you so much, Nancy. You gave a lot of information.
I did.
And I know you love Elizabeth Craft Designs.
I really do. I really do. She's just, I don't know. I can't help but how, like I said, she makes my brain explode with ideas. She's got so many great things.
I don't think a lot of people know how much you like Elizabeth Craft, because you don't really teach with it, and you don't really, do a lot of demos with it, but you really do love Elizabeth Craft.
I do. It can be hard to teach with, because I feel like everybody would need their own die for us to really get playing. So, I mean, I don't want to put a class out that's 150 plus my stream. Yeah. But I mean, I'll demo it to the death.
That's right. Well, we had a lot of really great comments tonight. So you might have to do another Monday Night Live with Elizabeth Craft, and maybe, create a planner page or something like that.
I think so. I feel like I just scratched the surface. So yeah.
Yeah, Elizabeth Craft Designs has a lot of different products, a lot of different dies, their stencils, their planners. So I know a lot of people are commenting. They want to see more Nancy on Monday Night Lives, and they want to see a little bit more Elizabeth Craft. So I think next time, maybe just do a planner page. I think people would love to see just
one planner page. I can do that.
Action. Perfect.
This was an introduction.
Yes. So at the beginning, we did tell you that we had a giveaway. It is one pack. It's 25 sheets of the Elizabeth Craft Designs soft finish cardstock. Now, this cardstock is gorgeous, and I love it when they use the soft finish cardstock for their animal dies, because when you blend the ink over the textured side, it almost looks like, I don't know, it just looks so cool, especially when they use it with their animal dies.
It would have a furry skin texture. Oh, it'd be so good.
Yeah, it just looks really cool, and it's just a gorgeous cardstock, because I love it too. Yeah. Okay, so you've been commenting lots. That's awesome. So if you commented, that means your name has been gathered up with our giveaway tool, and I'm going to need to remember how to share screen. So hang on. I hope this is going to work. Can you see this screen, Brianna or Nancy, the entries?
I can.
Okay, perfect. Let's run it. Going through the names, and just remember, if any of our teachers or staff have commented on it, they can't win.
No, we'll have to do it again.
Oh, look, the Paper Boutique won. Woo! Okay, that's not fair. So we're going to do another draw.
It never happens, and we actually talk about it, and it does.
We talk about it, and it never happens, and then boom. Okay, let's run it again. Joanne Bereniak. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Joanne, you have won the pack of soft finish cardstock from Elizabeth Craft Designs. Oh, stop sharing. Let's stop doing that because it starts doing weird things. There we go. So Joanne, I'm writing your name on a pack of that soft finish cardstock, and we'll make sure we get that out to you ASAP. So thank you so much, Nancy B, and thank you so much for everyone for joining us. And
thank you for having me.
yeah, thank you. Have a lovely evening, everyone. And just a quick reminder, if you want to look back at any other Monday Night Lives that we've done, oh, look, Bereniak. I even pronounced it right. Awesome. I never get it on the first try. I always have to
You
be.
did. You rocked it.
I'm pretty good. Not bad. Yay me. Pat on the back. I just want to remind you that you can head over to our YouTube channel. You can see previous episodes of Monday Night Live and Dynamic Duo, of which Nancy is half of our beautiful Dynamic Duo. So you can check out all those previous videos over there. Don't forget, Elizabeth Craft Designs 25% off until 11:59 p.m. Mountain Time tomorrow online. All day in store tomorrow. And we also have that extra 20% off in our last chance section that is currently on until tomorrow as well. Have a lovely evening, everyone. Bye. Bye, Nancy B.
Bye-bye.